to loosely quote Star Trek, you boldly went on Saturday, where no manager's been since the start of the season, and started Hamir. Is that sort of, in one sense, the conundrum you've got? I mean, we keep coming back to the forwards. You've tried Hamir, Rusin. Are you sort of half tempted to say, right, let's just go with one and just give them a run of games and see if we can crack this problem?
Yeah, it's a really good question. That's something we've definitely discussed internally as staff, with the coaching staff. I think obviously we changed slightly in terms of our in-possession stuff in the game, and I just felt that we needed a focal point in the game to play off and onto, so hence the reason why we went with Hamir. And in the main, I felt he did okay. I think he could have had a little bit more service. I felt we started the first 15 minutes of the game where our quality with the ball could have been better, and once we settled into the game, we had pockets of play where we looked comfortable in possession but without really damaging them. And I just felt, in terms of the way we set up, we needed a focal point. And to be fair to Hamir, he's working really hard. He's working really, really hard. And I think if I see the players on the training pitch are all in, they're all in for the football club, then they'll get an opportunity. And Hamir's done that. So yeah, long may that continue.
You're not helped because you've not got Jack Clark, you've had Dan Ballard missing for a couple of games, and so you're sort of putting sticking plasters in a sense in the team. Callum Starr's another player that's come in, and Michael Beale, when he was here, said he was a left back, left wing back. Callum says he prefers to play as number 10, played as a right winger. I mean, where do you see Callum fitting in to the system?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you spotted this, the plasters bit. We're still getting to know Callum a little bit, I'll be honest with you. He's a lovely technician, he's got lovely technique. I think when he was at Barnsley, he literally played so many positions. He did play at left back, he played left wing back, he played as an 8. He went on loan to Millwall last season and played predominantly the time down the left hand side. We utilised him off the right type, but it was more kind of a narrow right position, both in and out of possession because of some of the threats that Norwich had with the ball, and we also felt that he could, when we had the ball, he could pick up some dangerous positions. And I think the pleasing thing from the game, we did actually get him the ball in those positions at times, not frequently enough, but what we worked on, I did see pockets of those types of things. So to answer your question, Callum, fortunately or unfortunately, is one of those players that is really quite versatile, and I think for a coach, people like that are worth their weight in gold, because you can slot him into different positions on the pitch, and he seems like a great kid. He asks lots of questions. He's fitted into the group really, really well. So to answer your question, right now I don't know what his best position is, if I'm being brutally honest. I know where he's played previously, and the answer to your question is he's played so many positions. We've got to try and find the best position to utilise him.
I mean, there has been so much focus on the fact that Jack Clark's been out, but I think we often perhaps overlook the importance that Dan Ballard's played this season, so it must be a huge relief for you to have him available again.
Yeah, in particular the first game that I took, I think it was glaringly obvious how important he was to us. And I think it was important as well, obviously Dan, during international breaks, obviously goes away with his country, and he's robust, he plays a lot of games for us, he trains every day, so we gave him a few days just to kind of, not just mentally, really more than anything, to kind of refresh himself. And I have to admit, the last kind of 7 to 10 days, he's been bouncy and bubbly, and it's almost like signing a new player, really. Really looking forward to for him to be back in the squad, the team. And I think, like you said, to reiterate your point, I think what he has done is shown how important he is to us. I said previously, when last time I took the team, Nick, that I felt he was one of the best defenders in the league, and I think all that's done, not having him in the team, has cemented that kind of statement.
And now you've got a Leicester team who, the old adage is it's a good time to play them because they've lost their last 3 league games. But it's hard to say. I mean, if you watch those games with a hope that you can find out what the key was for the opposition to win those games, you see what I mean?
Yeah, listen, we watch loads of opposition games, and they're really clear in terms of the way they want to play. They're very, as I said, they're very clear in terms of how they want to play. I don't see them changing for us, and I don't see them changing for anyone in the league, if we're being completely honest. The coach is very thorough and very forthright in the way he wants to play, and they're top of the league for a reason. Is there ever a good team to play? Is there ever a good time to play a Leicester team that have got the quality that they've got in depth? Even coming off the bench. I don't know. I expect they're going to make some changes. Having watched their last 3 or 4 games, I would think they're going to make some changes. Where that will be, obviously we'll find out tomorrow evening, but my prediction would be that they would probably make some changes and try and freshen 1 or 2 things up.
It's clearly not going to be an easy game, and you're in a position now where you've lost 4 on the bounce. Mm-hmm. Is there a point at which that starts to play on the mentality, the psychology of the game? Because you can't escape the fact that you don't want to lose 5 on the bounce and then become 6 on the bounce.
Not really from my perspective, and I think when you start going down that route, you start to create doubt within the players in terms of the game plan and executing the game plan. So from my perspective, not really, no. One thing I will say is, we're fully aware in terms of we haven't won for 4 games, and that I'm completely clear on that. But in terms of the training ground feeling, in terms of the intensity and focus, you wouldn't feel that on the players, which I want to make really clear that that's a massive positive. That's not them being flippant or not underestimating the situation. It's definitely not that. But we've had a really good training session out there. I said to one of the staff, I said, you wouldn't know they've lost 4 on the bounce. They're vibrant. They're at it. They're asking all the right questions. So I understand what it looks like in terms of when you look at the hard facts, the black and white, in terms of that win or loss. But when you're in here every single day, I don't feel, if I'm being honest, I don't feel that level of, whether you want to call it pressure or that burden. And my mentality, like I said, when the club asked me to take the role, was I want to try and win every single game. And sometimes that will work, sometimes that won't work, but that's the kind of arena that I'm sitting in.
Well, you mentioned Leicester making changes. You've had a rigorous trip to Norwich for a lot of reasons, weather, travel. I assume you are looking to make changes yourself?
Yeah, well, this game and the next game, we've got to utilise the squad. It's a fine balance between freshening certain areas up and trying to have a level of consistency, because we want to try and get into a flow and a rhythm of the way we want to work. So it's just trying to find that balance between freshening things up to make sure that we're right at it in terms of how we want to set up, but also not making it clunky and disjointing what we're trying to do. So the next 2 games, of course, there'll be changes. I said that earlier in the week. We're going to have to utilise the whole squad. So we'll see how tomorrow night goes, and then obviously on to Saturday, where I'm sure there will be again 1 or 2 tweaks.
And bearing in mind that all the injuries and so on, are you mindful of the yellow card amnesty? You've got a couple of players on 9 yellow cards. The last thing you really want now is to, in the last couple of games before that amnesty, to lose 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, there is. Again, it goes back to my point. It's a really fine balance between we've got to win games of football. So with the nicest possible way, I'm not going to protect one of those players that are on 9 yellow cards for the sake of a result. Because ultimately we've got to turn the tide a little bit in terms of the result. So that the result for me is the first and foremost thing that comes to my head. But yeah, we have spoke about it internally. Obviously, we've got a couple of boys that are close to that dreaded 10th yellow card. But there's nothing we can do about that. Cheers.
Hi, Mike. As Nick said, there was a lot went into that Norwich game at the weekend. What do you think it was that gave them the edge?
Being brutally honest, got one of the best number 9s in the league. You can't get away from that fact. I mean, I don't know what the number of goals he's exactly scored. Is it 15? I think he scored or something like that. Someone told me. So I think that's a factor. I think sometimes, and I don't like using this, but the reality is sometimes the ball falls for you and sometimes it doesn't fall for you, and at the moment it feels a little bit like we're not getting the rub of the green a little bit, but the type of coach I am, I don't like to rely on that, because I believe you make your own luck and you make your own fortunes, and we spoke about that internally with the players, that we've just got to keep turning up every day, doubling down on what we're doing, and if we stick to our processes and we stick to how hard we're working, one result I think will kind of change our fortunes, and hopefully we'll snowball from there.
Particularly with it being such a tight league, I suppose your message to the players will just be, they'll just take a run of results, and it's a very different picture altogether, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I said after the game on Saturday, I mean, I don't know what the comparison was in terms of 35 games last year to 35 games this year, but I can't imagine it's a huge difference. One thing, and I don't know the facts on that, but I remember last year being in a similar type of position. We had 10 games to go and we were kind of in a similar spot where it was like, are we going to do it, aren't we going to do it, and I think the difference in mentality is really interesting, because I think 12 months ago I think everyone was just kind of happy that we were kind of mid-table in the Championship, and there wasn't really, there wasn't really a, we're going to get the playoffs here, we're going to get the playoffs. Whereas obviously 12 months on, that's obviously now the conversation. But I think that's a positive. It shows how far we've come, and I think we've got to embrace that conversation. We've got to embrace that. I'm not going to call it pressure, because this is a big football club, and that should be an expectation from us. But that's not going to get easier, you know what I mean? So in 12 months' time, that expectation isn't going to go, it's all right, year 3 in the Championship. That's not going to get easier. So we have to meet those challenges head on. So this league is a crazy league. All it takes is someone to win 2 games, someone to lose 2 games, and then the whole complexity of the league completely changes. So, we're still really positive. We're still really positive. We just need that one little bit of luck. We need that one game to go for us, and I do firmly believe from there it will start to accelerate in terms of what we're trying to do.
And obviously it starts with Leicester tomorrow, top of the league, but have had a bit of a wobble. What's been your assessment of their season so far, I guess?
Look, they're top of the league. They're probably the best team in the league. Or one of the best teams in the league. I'm not being disrespectful to the other teams that are in the mix there, but got a really clear way of the way they want to play, and I got a lot of respect for the coach for that. He won't change for anyone in the league, which again I've got a lot of respect for that. He's obviously got a huge amount of resource, and he's got a huge amount of firepower to pick from, which always helps. So yeah, look, it's going to be a really, really tough game. But the point I would make is every game is tough for different reasons. They obviously want to dominate the ball and they want to control the ball, which is a challenge for us. But it's no different to you play a team that doesn't want to dominate the ball, that maybe wants to play a little bit more direct. it's how we overcome all those challenges. So look, it's gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be a tough game, but every game in this league's tough.